Hi, I'm Kayan,
And I'm Donny.
and we are KD.
Jaya Dikut. Welcome back to episode 4 of our podcast. Thank you for following us up to date. Right, Kayan. So
Right.
today we
So-
have an interesting topic to talk about.
Yep.
Slightly out of the norm.
Yeah. Maybe let me kickstart the topic. Just want to start with the signs of a toxic workplace. Right.
Very interesting. Tell us more about it, Kayan. Signs
Sure.
of a toxic
I
workplace.
think in the last episode, I actually briefly spoke about bosses yelling at you, right? For work related or non-work related job. So I would categorize this as a disrespectful or abusive activity done by your bosses or superior. So apart from that, maybe lack of trust. Sometimes if there's a lack of trust between the employees and the superior, things cannot jalan. and then the quality of work will be very bad as well because there's no trust and lack of communication in terms of information flowing from the top to the bottom. So maybe one example I can give is if, let's say, if there is a merger and acquisition. So if there's no information flowing from the top, the bottom, the people like us, we cannot function because we do not know the direction of the company. So let's say, the old direction is to direction A, but because of the M&A, the direction become direction B. If that is not communicated well to all the staff, then I think there will be a very erroneous direction in terms of the employees as well. And lastly, I think the last sign of a toxic workplace is discrimination in the workplace.
Okay, so before we go into that further into detail about discrimination, I want to add on the lack of trust, right? Lack of trust and also maybe the lack of freedom. So if let's say you've been like, I know there are some organizations in Malaysia, I don't have to mention names, but some people may know about this, that they actually have CCTV on their employees, right? Not on the manufacturing line. It's a manufacturing company, but on the office side, there are CCTVs, you'll be monitored. There are also organizations that basically there's no freedom for you to do what you want. Freedom in a sense from a work sense, right? You get to do only a very restricted scope. You can't do beyond certain scope. And I think another sign of a toxic workplace is actually intense politicking.
Yes.
Unless you are working in a political party, that's normal. But if you're not working in a political party, intense politicking, as though it's actually the organization behaves like UMNO, then that is definitely toxic. Where every leader is jostling to be the number one or whatever position.
Yeah.
So that's
maybe
one
not just
sign.
UMNO, but all
Yeah,
political
yeah,
parties.
yeah.
I think one last, maybe I just add on. I think the one other sign of negative or very toxic workplace is actually high turnover rate. So how do you see it? How do you see a toxic workplace? Just ask around. If the department always have a very high turnover rate, then something is going on, right? So it may be a toxic workplace, it may not.
Yeah.
Right? So that is a very, very obvious sign already.
And another one, like I think for us professionals, because like myself and Kayan, we are in a FI industry, and we know that a lot of people suffer in silence when it comes to discrimination. I have to say that it's not really widely talked about because we tend to talk about in a very general terms, but in our field of being professionals, a lot of times when people face discrimination, they actually just suck it up and move on. But I think today we want to talk about it because I think there's certain things that we need to address. And whether be it perception or be it real, I think some of the issues that we need to keep in our in mind when we look into discrimination in general at the workplace.
Yes, I think one example of the thing that I think we want to talk about today is when you look at job postings, some of the job postings actually require Mandarin speaking ability. So I think that is quite hot. That was quite hot, I think, recently, where people say that do you really need Mandarin speaking ability or skills to do your job, right? Of course, there are certain jobs that, number one, that require you to speak with the people from China or Taiwan in terms of the work. For example, Bank of China. I mean, that one is very obvious. You require Mandarin speaking skills to speak with the Chinese people because their English is not as good as the Malaysians. They cannot speak BM, so they only can speak Mandarin, right? Second perspective is why these employees want to hire Mandarin speaking. These are my assumptions, right? May not be right or wrong. The employer who is Malaysian Chinese, might be a bit comfortable working with people from their own race. So, for example, you have 10 people in the department, 9 of them are Chinese, when they want to hire the 10th person, so they will feel that why not hire a Chinese? So it fits more into the department. We can have team lunch in the non-halal place, right? So for me, this is the second reason why people want to hire people of the same race. The third reason, which I have heard recently, personally from my ex-colleagues, was because I have this former colleague who likes to yell and scold at people. So he got away every time because he was yelling at the Chinese people lah. So unfortunately, this time he was yelling at this Malaysian Indian, and this got very heated because he went to HR, and this person got a lot of flack of it because the Malaysian Indian guy actually yelled of racism, right? Because you can say whatever you want because I'm from different race in Malaysia. So yes, this person may be right or wrong, but in terms of the employer's perspective, this person may be incompetent, but he's just yelling of racism. Right.
But I think it's right. If you talk about yelling, right? Come on, it's not a professional behavior to yell, Kayan.
Exactly.
It's not professional. I think if you are a professional, you shouldn't yell. Right? Why?
Exactly.
Okay, tell me a reason why you need to yell in office.
There's no reason.
Are you in a stadium with 40,000 spectators? Are you Eric Ten Hag? Are you Jurgen Klopp? No, right? I mean, okay, if Jurgen Klopp yells at players, I can understand, right? He's shouting from one field away, Guardiola yelling.
There's a need for yelling for that situation.
Yeah, but in office,
nope.
Right? Do you have 40,000? Are you in Anfield? No, right? There's no need for yelling.
I've seen even worse. I've seen a partner actually punch a hole in the wall. So until today, I think there's still a hole in his room. It's his fist size hole. So, but that is the leadership of certain people, which is not right. And unfortunately, these people are still present in the society, in the workplace. So we have to deal with that, right? And lastly, to continue back to the reason why Chinese people or Mandarin speaking people prefer to get people from the same race or speaking Mandarin. So it's maybe they are just purely racist, right? So there's a small minority of the people in Malaysia are racist from all races.
We are united in racism, bro.
Yeah, united racism. So these are the few reasons why people put Mandarin speaking.
I think this is something that we don't talk about a lot lah. Because I think I mean most of us, if we are professionals, we have gone through at least. We have seen some experiences. We have experienced some of it, but we don't talk about it because we tend to brush it aside, and we are just good at what we do in the sense that it doesn't bother us. But I think this is some of these cases are real.
Yes,
Kayan, I mean this is very real in a corporate place, and I think just talk about the advertisement part. There are a lot of cases where it's actually a genuine need as well. So I want to put in on record that having advertisement asking for Mandarin speakers comes from various reasons as well, and it doesn't have a bad intention to start with. I can share my personal experience because I used to work in healthcare and inside a hospital. So what happened is a lot of our nurses, right? I would say that it's a very diverse group. You have Malay, Chinese, Indian nurses, but unfortunately enough, our Chinese nurses, some of them are banana. So they are non-Chinese speakers.
And the patients
patients are a lot of them elderly, and in healthcare, right? A lot of the nurses are already, put it this way, we struggle to communicate with the patients. Of course, the patients, the elderly Chinese patients, they can understand Malay, but it's not in a language that is comforting, and sometimes it's not explaining the right way to do things. For example, I want to tell you how to take your medications, how to take care of your health. Now, a lot of times this is a hospital background, I tell you, patients come in very jittery because the seeing doctor is not a fun thing. So having a language that to comfort them helps. And that's where in healthcare, there is a need for Mandarin speakers at the very least. And I can tell you, in a lot of private hospitals in Malaysia, even some public hospitals, nurses who are non-Chinese actually are Mandarin conversant. And those people come in very highly sought after because they are able to alleviate their existing colleagues' problems, right? For example, you may need to speak to a lot of this elderly person who, in some cases, their children don't accompany them. So you have to manage those patients, telling them what to do after the doctor says, or even, explaining. So there is a genuine need. I come from customer servicing, definitely you need someone who can speak the language, because if you're in telesales, for example, if I call Kayan and try to cross-sell the fella in some language that he's not familiar with, most likely he won't entertain. But if I speak his lingo, then we entertain lah. So in me, it's reverse. you don't speak to me in English, bit difficult lah. You speak Malay and English, I'm more comfortable with that.
Yes.
So it's a similar situation. But I think coming back to the actual, this kind of experiences in the workplace is quite real, right? And I think some of you may have actually experienced this. I do come across, I think some of my Indian friends who actually come and complain to me where a common problem is that at the workplace, even within the same team or department, they just speak only Chinese.
Yes.
And they feel left out.
Yep.
Right, and I think that happens to a lot of bananas as well.
Yep.
So I've asked a few Chinese friends, they come and complain to me, this burger don't speak Mandarin anyway, I don't understand shit and stuff like that.
Yep.
So what can we do? Let's say we can't change people, but what can we do to make our part, to make at least it better for people who, let's say that, we be the agent of change. How do we do that, Kayan? I mean, that's a question.
Yeah, so me as a Chinese person, because I can converse in Mandarin as well. So it's not a problem to me, myself, but it may be a problem to my team. So for me, in my case, I always make it my first very task is when there's a non-Mandarin speaking colleague of mine in the team. When I speak to the team, I will make it a point to speak in English or BM lah, right? English mainly. And if I notice that some other colleagues who speaks Mandarin to me, but surrounding, there are other people from non-speaking environment background. So I would also speak English back to this particular colleague. I always try to make it a point, and I always try to emphasize that we are in Malaysia, so we're not in China, right? So always in work, we can speak when there's a non-Mandarin speaker, just speak in English. That's the best approach that we can do.
I think you're right. I think one of the things I do as well, because now to defend some of these situation or circumstances, it's just not that these people are inherently racist or have a problem, but it's just bad habits, right? Like for example, I can take there are some workplaces I've been where an entire team just automatically speaks Chinese because that's what their mother tongue, they're comfortable. And although I can understand, but most of the time I'll interject and I'll speak English again to force them to speak English. And sometimes we need to speak up also. Okay? I think we need to say, hey guys, I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you speak English, right? Because they may not realize it. They just assume. And I think this is the problem also, sometimes assumption. And then it breeds a lot of misconception. And it just comes across as not politically correct in today's day and age of DEI, right?
Yeah.
So I think speaking up is one thing. But I think because I can tell you I've never been on the receiving end of this kind of perceptions or anything before. So I'm kind of lucky in that sense.
I have personally because I cannot speak Tamil. Right? So if some of my colleagues speak Tamil with each other, so I would also try to mingle around and say, what is going on? Right? Just try to go into the conversation and ask questions. Then they will automatically change it to English or BM. Right? So that is the best approach that I can.
In school last time, the football team speaks Tamil. That was our advantage because a lot of my Indian schoolmates, when we play football, so they use like Tamil terms, right? Like for passing, looking out and everything. So, and to say that most of the time, the people that I play football with are diverse, right? In the same team, you have Indians, Malay, Chinese playing football, and we use Tamil terms. And that's the best thing because when we play against another team, they don't understand. So most of the time, they don't understand what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. And there's another friend of mine, the same thing, comes from Seremban, also a diverse football team. Whenever they use Tamil terms on the field, they confuse the opposition because suddenly like Chinese fellas talking Tamil terms, so people don't understand. So language is great to learn. I like to also give another advice is that sometimes you can turn around this kind of situation for your own benefit. If you know that you have a team that speaks a particular language, let's say for example in a Mandarin workplace, one of the key things, right, rather than feeling victimized and feeling bad for yourself, why not you turn it around and learn that language?
Yes,
right? Because number one, it builds advantage for you, but I always draw this inspiration from this movie called 13 Warrior. I'm not sure if you watched it before. It stars Antonio Banderas. It's about this Arabian guy, warrior that went together with the Vikings. So he couldn't speak a word of Scandinavian or this what the Vikings were talking about. So throughout the journey, he was quiet. But by the time he reached the Vikings' homeland, right, suddenly he like can speak and understand Viking language. Mm-hmm. And he became integral. At the end of the day, he was the hero of the movie. But that inspires me. Sometimes in situations where you are not that speaker of that language in the group, take it upon you to learn it, right? And that's one way to deal with this thing because you're turning something that can be negative if you really make it negative, but you can actually turn it around and suddenly it becomes a positive part. But I think that's one of the ways to deal with difficult situations like this. Like I know there's a lot of uncomfortableness among our colleagues that are non-Chinese, Kayan. They don't talk about it,
Yep.
but I think they
Yes.
do encounter a lot of discomfort at the workplace.
Yes.
And I think for, let's say if you are a Mandarin speaker and someone that maybe, like our viewers, I think one of the key things is just try to be sensitive with people around you.
Exactly.
Right? Be observant a bit.
Observant.
If let's say your team is majority Chinese and then got one poor Indian guy, Indian girl, or one Malay guy or girl, please be sensitive a bit, right? I mean, at least bring them in the conversation, or at the very least, like some of this, I would say that typical Chinese SME kind of very being kind of environment, like workshops. Okay, I tell you, interestingly, workshop environment very funny. So what happened is you got a bunch of Chinese buggers who only know speak Chinese, and then you got a non-Chinese worker come in. You know what they do? They actually teach the non-Chinese guy Chinese words. No?
Yeah.
They start with bad word, coding bad word. Then slowly they start training them in Chinese, right? Then next thing 6 months you come with service or car, the bugger can speak Chinese already.
Yes.
So these guys, right, are actually, I tell you, the least racist are actually your typical Abing joints, because some of the lorry drivers can actually speak Chinese because the tauke teach them, like they can't speak any other language. So, and they have this common working class background as well, right? Where they are a bit more muka tebal, they tease each other, but they learn. So this is one of the great things but I think as professionals, we need to be aware of our behavior.
Yeah.
Right.
I think in terms of learning a new language, I think Mandarin is a very good language to learn. And I think Mandarin is actually the second largest speaking language in the world because of China and Taiwan. So why not learn up the language? It will be a competitive advantage to you. One example would be, let's say, if you want to learn Japanese. If you scroll through the job street applications or the job postings, right, you can see they are paid very high. If you've worked in the contact center before, right, serving the Japanese market, it's amazing that they are willing to pay this amount of money.
Agree.
So why not learn up an extra language to improve yourself?
I think there's no doubt learning about languages, but when we talk about discrimination, I want to bring into a very, very seldom discussed discrimination, right? And I think this has a bit of link back to our previous topic. It's about people with mental health issues. Like, for example, like people with clinical depression, right? They have been diagnosed with depression. For example, let's say if someone that goes through, let's say, a big four, gets, number one, emotionally damaged, mentally damaged, go through shit, like, go through a meat grinder, coming out with depression. And when the person wants to apply for work, right? And of course, it comes out in the diagnosis that, I do have depression, I'm taking medication, but the person is fine. They can perform, highly functional, no issue, but they have this. That's why they're taking medication.
Yep.
And I know there are a lot of cases where a lot of times the employers may not even hire them, or the hiring manager thinks that something is wrong with this bugger.
Yes. So I think it's there, right? So if this candidate were to have, like you say, have a very, very strong depression, very bad depression, and as a hiring manager, you will think a bit longer on whether that person can actually accept the stress level in the company, because certain jobs, right, require the ability to handle more stress.
So that means you won't hire, okay?
Depends on the job scope, Don. So let's say if that job requires you to handle a very high level of stress, and you have this history of having depression, and you are taking medication, yes, it's being controlled, but you have the history of having this sickness where it may occur again, in the future.
Okay, in that case, will you ask the candidate itself, will you explain that this is a pressure cooker? Will you be able to take it? Do you take into account the person's answer?
Of course, I would take account to that person's answer. But as an employer, unfortunately, in Malaysia, we will also think a bit longer. Not to say I will reject directly. We will think a bit longer to look at the job scope. If the job scope is a normal job, where anybody can do the job and it's not as stressful, and the stress level is not above the extreme, right? So maybe I'll hire that person. But if that job requires the ability to handle stress at a very high level, then I will think twice.
Okay, then that may be one of the issues where it leads to people don't seek help. They don't want to show up to medical records. But I don't agree with that approach, Kayan, because I feel that a better approach is to ask the person itself, right? Oh yeah, you do have these health issues. This is the situation. We are looking for people who are extremely working at a tight deadline,
Yep.
pressures and everything, I will ask that person, will you be able to handle this? Right? And the person may say yes. You know why they say yes? Because when they seek help and they have a letter or they're taking medication, most likely their doctor have already advised them, you have no problem. Continue taking this medication, you can handle any problem. Because the problem happened to them before they take medication. But medication means just like, it's like having people with high cholesterol, bro. I mean, will you hire someone with taking medication for high cholesterol? No problem, you
no
hire,
problem, no
right?
problem.
So same thing, why can't you hire people with taking pills for depression or what?
Okay, maybe just let me rebut you, right? So when a job applicant, when they apply for job, they will say yes to anything. I mean, can you work long hours? Yes. Can you work during weekends sometimes? Yes. But in actual fact, when the thing happened, so let's say I were to hire this person with this background of depression, and let's say after a while, maybe 6 months later, after confirmation, something happened. He or she got admitted to the hospital because of depression. Do I want to be the person responsible to make it happen to this person because of me? Because the pressure that I've put on to this person get admitted to the hospital. I do not want that burden to be on myself.
But then again, you really tell the person, like for me, okay, I take a
Yes.
different stance from you, Kayan.
Sure.
I would have disclosed fully that this is a high pressure job. Okay, I'm hiring you to like maybe take over Manchester United like that, right? High pressure, right?
Everything hard,
You
yes.
take it, everything hard. You take up the job.
Yeah.
You do know that you have problem. And I think the responsibility also lies with that person that I will trust fully that you will adjust your dosage. If you think this high job, right, you go and adjust your dosage lah. Go see your doctor, right? I mean, because your doctor say you're functioning fine. And most of the time, I know this because through my readings when studying about this topic, clinical depression, the only time you get back into problem is because you stop your medication, right? I mean, if they have problems and they constantly seek help and they have like, there are dosage adjustments lah, bro. I mean, I don't think so it's fair to deny employment to a candidate that, other skills fit the job. Number one, it has to fit the requirement. But I don't think so this is a factor for me. I will explain, but I'll take the person as normal. I mean, you may be just having high cholesterol. I cannot be discriminating on that. And I think this is one of really, really things we seldom talk about because like Kayan, we subconsciously do this.
Yes.
We deny people this kind of opportunity. And it also drives people to be afraid to seek help as well.
True.
Right? I think this is where now when you talk about work, like let's say companies and also HR, I think there is this need to make sure that when you practice diversity, inclusion, and equity, right? This is one of the things that you must embrace lah. I think you need to embrace. Yes, we accept
Yes.
that people has problems, but so long as the person is taking treatment or on treatment and on medical record, no problem functioning, I think we shouldn't discriminate. I think it should be just fair and square based on the ability. If the person has this kind of issues, as long as they tell them upfront this is a high pressure job. And I think we shouldn't make the decision of denying people based on that. Because you may add on to the stress. The bugger maybe couldn't be finding job, you're the last hope, right? And then maybe if because of you, Kayan, you think that I don't want to take this person scared to go to hospital, you rejected the bugger, then anything happened because of that, even worse, right?
True, that can happen as well.
Exactly. My point is, things are out of our control. But what's within our control is to treat people fairly, regardless of what is their medical background. So long as we are transparent and sincere about what this entails, the person know what risk is it to take. Why deny the person the opportunity when they know what risk they're taking?
I mean, true. So it for other medical conditions like you say, high cholesterol or blood glucose level a bit higher, or I mean any
Same,
other.
bro.
Yeah, but because this is a bit okay for me, for myself, my personal opinion. I do not want, like you say, but maybe I reject then something happened to that person. Okay, fine. But what if I accepted the person and something happened to that person? Yes, that person need to take accountability because that person accepted the job offer. But that person might accept the job offer out of desperation, no job for many months. I just take whatever I have. What if that is the situation? Then something happened to that person, which I do not want to be guilty of.
Okay, so I think that
That is
fair
my
point,
view
but you shouldn't lah. I think that
True.
hiring decision, you cannot say that if I take you, then if anything happens, because we never know. Like for example, the person may be grateful because you're the only one believe that they can. And if anything happens, then it's out of your control, bro. I mean, you shouldn't feel guilty, but I always feel that when we hire, consciously we know that this person has problems or what, but we shouldn't be using that as a factor against them.
Okay.
But I think that's the message I want to send to our listeners out there that, if you come across cases like this, people with say let's say mental health issues or what, I don't think so like you should deny them the opportunity like what Kayan would do, because I believe most of us out there will behave like Kayan. I mean that is
True.
human nature, but I feel that we shouldn't do that because it is a discrimination, bro. I mean,
But just a disclaimer. I rejected this person because of the job nature, the high stress level that is required for that job. If the job is just to, let's say, an insurance company to issue policies, to process claims, then why not? I mean,
but well, my arguments still remain the same. If someone with taking if they are currently ongoing treatment and they're taking out Eric Ten Hag's job. Put it this way, I want to put another point before I forget, bro.
You can clock.
No,
Okay.
I mean, look at it. People like Gerard Houllier, people like, what's his guy name? Big Sam Allardyce. These jokers have heart problem, but they stick out these EPL clubs, bro. High pressure job, they still do well, what?
I think that is a different thing.
See, when I mentioned Gerard Houllier, our friend got no answer, bro. Because he took on Liverpool. The bugger has heart problems, man. So
I think the next new manager of Liverpool.
So I think let's wrap up this episode with this, at least the message out loud, right?
Yep.
Discrimination at the workplace happens.
It's common.
Right? If you don't experience it, it's either you're number one, lucky you're not at the receiving end, or number two, subconsciously you are the giving end as well. So I think I implore everyone to be just a bit more sensitive to be our surroundings, our colleagues. And I think that applies to people that may have signs of mental health as well, because people fear to seek help. And around us, people may actually already borderline having, potential anxiety and everything. But if you're more, I would say, more aware of surroundings, at least you could reach out to people, make them feel more comfortable, number one. And also, please do not deny someone, a position just because the person, we're just taking mental health as an issue.
Yeah.
But if you talk about other things like health issues or
It's
disabilities, don't make that
that is fine.
criteria, bro. I mean,
Not my criteria. I mean, if you don't have one leg, it's fine because you need both hands to work, right?
okay, whatever, man. So
Yeah.
I think,
I'm just trying to justify.
So I think we have come to the end of this episode. Tell us if you like to listen to more takes on this kind of issues. Do feel free to DM us. We can talk about hotter topics over further things. But anything else to add before we wrap up this episode?
No, just leave us any comments that you want. We will read through each comments and we will respond in the following episodes if there are any comments. Yeah.
We'll do that.
Yep. I think.
So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Don't
you very
forget to like, subscribe, and follow our podcast.
See you in the next episode.
See you next episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye.